going all right. Apologies. Just trying to find a good place to put this real quick. So it kind of hit me, and I may actually do a video on this, but I'm pressed for time. I'd rather just do a live video talking about this in depth. And since I have my iPod here, I can, when I pull over and I get home and all that, I can actually pull up some verses and stuff like this. I had a conversation with my good friend Manuel on Sunday about when you pray to God, when you're crying out to God, and how it should happen. And I basically asked, well, what about, what's the word? What about when asking for forgiveness? Shouldn't you be doing that first? Because I heard that for God to actually hear your cries, you have to, show you're repentant and that you have to be clean before God, or else your prayers are just not going to be heard, And I think he pulled his answer from somewhere else. And if I can get more information and more links and all that, I'll put it in the description below. But he basically pulled from someone else and said that the idea is that he said, like, well, while I was, while what I said and my thoughts were true, he also pointed out that he believes in the context of some of the scripture out there that when you cry out to God and when you pray and ask for God and for intercession, for his help, his response, his answers, and you're asking for intercession, basically when you're making prayer requests, that you're supposed to give everything to God, not just the good, not just the bad, not just the prayer requests, not just the supplications. There's a whole slew of steps that I learned when I was a kid. Like you're supposed to approach God respectfully and with in a certain way. So in short, while that does matter, I think the idea is that we can get so lost in the approach that we forget to be genuine. We forget to be honest, even transparent, even. Not necessarily that we're trying to deceive or to cause issues. Hang on. Dude, you're not supposed to slow down. Oh wait, there's the yield sign. Never mind. Oh, okay. That guy stopped in front of me suddenly. Okay. Oh, okay. So, when it comes down to making prayer requests, I was of the mind that you had to approach God with a clean heart and a clean mind, and that you had to be humble, and there's a couple other things that you should take into consideration when you're making prayer requests, when you're approaching God. But maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong. I think there is some leeway in how children should be approaching their parents. Sorry, I'm saying this wrong. I think there is some leeway with children and their parents and how the interaction happens there. But I also think things become clear as our faith deepens and as things progress further. I really strongly believe that. So it's not just simply this is the right way, but I think this is the right way for us to connect to God becomes more apparent, more clear. I think rituals that we tend to do and use when approaching God fall in with like tradition of sorts. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally, but we can get so wrapped up in tradition, like when Jesus pointed out to the Pharisees, that we can end up either putting more load on ourselves or other people, or we can end up being like hypocrites, whitewashed tombs, looking good on the outside but looking dirty on the inside, very unclean on the inside, forgetting the heart of the letter when trying to meet up with the points of the letter. I'm paraphrasing. I know I'm going through a big move here, making some plans and trying to figure out who to call, what to do, and what to shut down before I move. I know that. It's not fun, but I've been doing a lot of praying because Moving is painful. It's not fun. It's sudden. At least in my case, it was sudden and completely just like, okay. Now the initial shock is over. How do you handle this? It's hard for me to focus on work as it is when I have a deadline set by the landlord. I'm not complaining. It's just the stress here is hard to handle at some points. I mean, I'm good with stress up to a point. Then that stress is just like, you need time off, you need something. Having a three-day weekend really did help out. Side thought here before I forget. There's a couple of the videos that they're in the queue. We're ready to upload and all that. So there's definitely some good stuff there. I try to show off videos and stuff and links for other channels that would be very helpful to other people. It won't always be focused on Christ or God, because I believe sometimes what we need is to correct our mind and not just our heart. It's like going to the gym. You're going to the gym to improve your physique, not necessarily to improve your spirit, but it's still important. Being in shape is a good sign to others, and it will help you be healthy in the long run. On this note, I want to say I do care about philosophy as I do theology, and I use that as a very fine point when it comes down to the mind and the spirit. How you approach things is just as important as what you approach, what you allow into your life. I'm going 40 miles per hour. Why are you speeding? Yeah, someone just crossed me at a very dangerous point on the road here. Bad drivers. Just hope he doesn't get in a car wreck because he drove around the wrong car. I've had a car accident happen to me, not to me, but right in front of me during my time in the Army Reserve, and that the debris was flying, and I'm glad no one got hurt, because that was right in front of me, and I became paranoid ever since. Like, I'm just glad I didn't see any bodies thrown from the vehicle and blooded up and stuff like that, but it was still brutal. Both cars were totaled, let me put it that way. And we were delayed by like a good hour, 2 hours, and I was in shock for like that whole entire period. Oh man, it was bad. All right, let me see here. How's this going? All right, put this in park here. Dude, I got way too much on my mind here. Way too much on my mind. Oh. I still have to do that video on my friend, the one who is I've been meaning to get around to this, but I've been putting this off. There's like 2 videos I've been put on the to-do list that have been there for like a year. One of them is tied to this really good video, but I need to get to it. There's some videos that are just very time consuming with editing, and frankly it's just been hard. But for the other one, it was on regards to my friend who is a Draco Wiccan, and frankly she's been on my mind for quite some time. Prayers were more of like rituals for her, and I'm getting back on topic here. For some people, it's not about praying to an individual, it's about what you do, not what you say. It's about your stance, and how you are before, who you care about, what you worship, and where you get your power from, quote unquote. When I'm talking about some of these things, I'm primarily talking to Christians, but for others, either the topics or other parts of the topic, it won't always be to Christians. It won't always be to those who care about Jesus. I think the end goal with faith and religion is to get closer to the object of your worship. And I think everything, when it leads back to God, will lead back to Jesus. Eventually, somewhere. Unless you get snagged in the process. But it is a process of not just discovering more of yourself and your faith, but discovering more of the truth and being able to tear down some of the strongholds as according to the scripture in the Bible. Tearing down that which keeps you stuck, bound spiritually. That also includes strongholds and the physical variations, the physical aspects, which are addictions. Strongholds are basically the same thing as addictions, but one is physical and the other one's spiritual. I actually think some of the spiritual stuff can actually be passed down as according to scripture as well. But how? I'm going to go on a limb and say that I think the ex-witches and ex-warlocks provide some good ideas on how that happens. It isn't just simply being pursued by others who are trying to curse you and trying to pray, move against you, act against you to disrupt you. But I also think when you open I know Nikki there's a video that Nikki did, and he talked about soul fragmentation. I'll see if I can find it and put in the description as well. And I think there's some truth there about what you open yourself up to and how that gets you stuck. So in a sense, when you're praying, and this is my concern here when I talked to Manuel about this, I'll tag the church that I'm helping out with in the description as well. I'm afraid that my thoughts are that when you pray, your prayers aren't going to be heard because of what lies between you and God. What keeps you from, what gets between your relationship with Jesus and God, respectively. I think there's a difference there, but I'm not sure if I can accurately point it out right here, right now. Other people have done so, and my state of mind is a little bit anxious at this point, just because I have to be moved by the end of this month, and it is quite the process. I guess it's like going through a divorce in a sense. Like, everything's changing, and it will change. It is severe because this is happening physically, and there's process to all of this. And you could technically lose everything. So, I mean, if you can't find a way to get rid of your home or move your home or sell your home, you're going to lose it, and you're losing money. So the financial aspect really does hit hard. I know there's a lot of do's and do nots when it comes down to, praying in public and all that. Jesus talks quite a bit about, don't be like the Pharisees and don't cry out in public just for appearances and all that. Let's turn down the volume real quick so it doesn't blast. Yeah. Okay. So I'm live here. Should be fine. How can I tell if I'm fine? Hang on a second. I'm taking a quick peek here. Hang on. How can I tell if I'm good? Good. It's good. All right. Live chat. Maybe I can pin this up in live chat here. That'll be awesome if I can do that. Okay. Nikki, soul fragmentation. Let's type in soul. Let's see what pops up here. In history. Soul fragmentation. Nope. What about fragmentation? Fragmentation. What about that? How fallen angels use soul fragmentation to enslave humans. There we go. Share. Copy link. Live chat. I'll put it in the live chat here. Can I tag that church that I help out with? Nope. Oh, hey. I didn't see you guys talk. I was driving, so apologies. Yeah, I'm going to put that link in the description as well, so y'all can check it out. from what I've gathered, that guy was someone who was formerly a warlock, someone who worked and acted against Christians, who did a lot to harm others before having a personal encounter with God or Jesus that changed his life. He's solid as far as what I found. I need to do like a video just like describing some of the Christian channels out there, because they did a good job with some of the stuff that they've actually encountered and talked about. I consider my channel to be more an advanced channel where I talk about things that go beyond the basics. And this is in addition to covering stuff that I wish the church would cover or do a better job of covering, because this stuff matters. And I'll stand on that hill. I will die on that hill. You know, when ex-warlocks and ex-witches talk about the importance of being clean before God in prayer, and the church doesn't do that, someone is wrong. Someone needs to do something about that, because if you're going to be off, or rather, let me rephrase that. If you're off, you're going to be off until someone points out where you are wrong, where you are off at, and how to fix that. I think all of us online here, collectively in the Christian community, can actually help out one another in different ways. Point out the red flags, point out the truths, point out the blessings, point out how to heal, how to change your life, all of this stuff. What to do about when you're single versus when you're in a relationship. What to focus on, you know? My journey into this relationship that I was exploring for a short time, for this period of time, it has left me rather thankful and confused, because guess what? There are some doors that you should only explore with someone else. It's not meant to be explored by yourself or to be explored alone. Explore the relationship with protection, within boundaries. You want that relationship to last, after all. You're not trying to go for a one-night stand. At least I hope you're not. A one-night stand causes a lot of issues long term. Short term, that's a different story. I think people are unique in the sense where, and take this with a grain of salt here from what I've seen, what I've heard, because people break down without human touch. People will break down if their needs go long enough without being met. It's like some people are willing to discard the flesh in favor of the spirit without ever taking into consideration the needs of the flesh. And I say needs, and I don't use that lightly, because being touched, hugs, handshakes, if you go, I don't want to say all your life, but like, you go a certain amount of your life without any sort of physical contact with others, it will leave an impression on you. It will impact you in ways that you're going to be struggling with up until you recognize, oh, this is probably the reason why I'm struggling so much, And it's hard because it's biologically written into us. Like, being at war with the spirit and the flesh is different when some of this stuff is actually a part of who you are as a human. Not just like, I know this touches upon the video that I did like 2 years ago, like, is what is natural what is wrong? Is what is biological what is wrong? The biological side of the humans does in some cases go hand in hand with what is spiritual, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. The physical needs is just it's one of the more quicker aspects that so many other Christians are quick to condemn and saying like it is wrong, it is sinful, it is evil, completely skipping out on God's plan and design. I am in no way trying to enable unhealthy behavior or immoral behavior, but I am trying to point out that without physical touching, people will tend to fall apart in various different ways. I'm trying to figure out how I'm tying this in, all this soul fragmentation, addiction, strongholds. I forget. I was trying to apply that in, put it in somewhere. Man. Oh wait, relationships. The relationship that you have with God is something that you should be pursuing. Just like with relationships with others. You care about them, you're going to pursue them. However, I think people on the outside get the wrong idea here, because it's like, what matters isn't necessarily the relationship itself. What matters is who has the most power in the relationship. If you love the other person, you're not going to care about that. You're going to do what's best for them, and you're going to try to set them up for success. For those who care about manipulation, all that, and they want to try to do this in the right way, you set both them and yourself up for success. Anyone who has any sort of skill or ability with manipulation never talks about this stuff, because they're revealing their hand, they're tipping this in ways that makes them lose. I don't care. I don't do this for money. I don't do this because I'm trying to make a name for myself, so to speak. I don't care about that, but I do care about helping other people. Anyway, someone just sent something here. A link. Central. Yeah, hi. Hey, hope you're doing all right. I'm trying to wrap all this up here. I got some calls I need to make. Crying out to God. Sometimes I think it's a process, and other times I think it's just simply get it all out there and then deal with being right before God. Maybe that applies to grieving. Maybe that applies to other aspects. I'm not entirely sure. I think opening up is very difficult, because there's other people out there who are going to hurt you, and then there's God out there you can't physically see, and so there's possibly trust issues. I mean, don't get me wrong, God's not a human, so he's not going to backstab you like a human. He's not going to hurt you like a human. I think trusting in God is hard because it's a combination of lack of control, as well as you're not able to see and to help take care of the critical issues that that are right in front of you. You know, like with moving here, for example, since that's common enough that other people they understand this. You want to make sure that you can take care of everything that you can take care of, and that you're not leaving anything up to random, to chance, hoping that things are going to work out in the end. You're going to take steps to making sure that you do the best that you can with this move. I mean, when you're actually moving from one place to another, faith isn't really a part of that. It's a physical process. But I think with God and relationships, faith is a part of this, because, hey, how else are you going to actually trust God? Unless you're actually put into, or allowed to be put into situations where you have to trust. You know, in order to grow, you need to trust, not have to. You need to trust, you need to let go, you need to open up, you need to ask for help. Stuff where you're in a position and you are humble. Maybe possibly letting go of your pride and changing your pride. Because I know pride, and this is a little bit of a different topic here. Other people talk about this, but there's two kinds of pride from what I've seen: an unhealthy and a healthy kind of pride. A pride of, like, you've done everything. This is, you know, there's a term for these. I'm not sure what they are, but a pride that is about the self, all about the self, versus a pride in accomplishment, achievements, like, this is what I've done. And you can either choose to hold on to their pride, or you can choose to point out and be thankful for whoever is behind all that. For us Christians, it'll be God and Jesus, and occasionally our parents. I'm a little biased. I love my parents, and I try to give them credit, because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today without my parents involved. In fact, if my parents were completely out of the picture when I was a kid, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be alive. I would probably be in jail, and probably some very dark outcomes. I was adopted from a very awful area, and who knows what could have happened. I went into some other videos where, you know, I think Satan really did reach out to me, and I think he did try to make a bargain with me. And if I would have accepted it, my parents would have been gone. They wouldn't be alive anymore. It's a very sobering thought. Anyway, Prayer is incredibly important. But at the same time, don't let yourself get wrapped up in tradition and rituals and how you approach prayer, because at the end of the day, it's communication between you and God, to Jesus. I think intercession is incredibly important. I know Bruce in the other live discussion actually kind of like denounced it and just didn't recognize or accept it, but intercession is absolutely critical, because it says in the Bible, not just like Jesus is on our behalf praying for us, but for those who are parents, sometimes you need to intercede for your kid, because like you realize they done goofed and they're in trouble, and you're like, I gotta help them out. You hate seeing your kid in trouble. You really do. I've seen that enough times, and I actually understand it. Don't get me wrong. I just observe and I pray from the distance. I don't really try to actively get involved in situations like that. The ones that do happen in front of me, because there's too much that can go wrong, no matter how much my heart is in the right place. Sometimes prayer is best done from the sidelines, where you're an active participant only in prayer. Actually, I do hold fast to what the ex-witches and ex-warlocks talk about, with the whole like, we can't touch Christians while they're praying. We just can't do anything about that. We hate it, don't pray. Actually, the one demonic possession one of the two demonic possessions I was present to, the one with Barry Edwards, I don't even know if he's alive anymore, to be honest. This was back in 2002, during the early summer months. Basically, as best as I understand, there was a demon that was in his life, if not in his family. And basically, he got me and some other guy. I remember his face, but I don't remember his name. All three of us were in the hallway talking, and everyone else was gone to some other event, so they were off-site. This was during my time when I was in New Hope Academy. I was there for the boarding school, not the drug rehab. It's an offshoot of Teen Challenge, and I have yet to actually talk about that. If I can find that slip of paper, I'm gonna go through the whole little history there, because it's an awesome, amazing time. But I saw 2 demon possessions, and if one of them was not a demon possession, it was a demonization. And Barry Edwards, his head dipped down. Then when he came up, he was all like wide-eyed, glassy-eyed. He just looked all around like he didn't know where he was at. He was confused. He didn't even take into account me and the other guy that was there in the hallway. The other guy was laying down. I can't remember if Barry, like on his elbows and knees. I was just sitting there. I don't remember what position Barry was, but I think he was sitting down. But anyway, he got up, started walking around the hallway, was cursing left and right and growling and telling us to turn off the lights. Stop praying, turn off the lights. That went on for a good solid 10-15 minutes, which really freaked us out, because we're like, what's going on? What happened? We didn't know at the time what that was. Anyway, we called the people who were in charge, and we did a lot of praying during that time period. And when the cops were there, they showed up. Barry Edwards was outside in the newly made basketball field, literally in the center of it. And basically, when he was being approached, he shook his head and he woke up. He's like, "What? Why am I out here?" He was confused. He didn't even know how he got out there. He was aware that he was in the hallway one minute, then waking up outside in the next minute. Jeez. Prayer matters. Really does. Mostly because you're not seeing what is going on in the background. You're not seeing what's going on in the spiritual world. Honestly, if we saw, we would probably be horrified. There was an app description on Warframe, and this is tying into here, and I'm trying to keep it tied on here. But she is talking about the entity in the void, and basically description there fits perfectly. Underneath your feet, people realize underneath their feet there was just a hollow, gaping nothingness. They would be absolutely terrified, horrified. I would love to actually just record that and show it here, because it fits perfectly with this whole, you think you're fine one minute, then you wake up and then bam, everything feels like a lie. Prayers help go against these lies. They really do. And if nothing else, they can invite the right people and the right scripture into your life. I mean, communication goes two ways. Not just from you to God, but from God to you. You're not going to get help unless you want help, right? That's it. I got some phone calls to make. I hope this was helpful, and there's a lot more on this topic that other people have talked about, and if I find other good links, I will link them down below, because I'm just trying to add to this topic in my own way. Till next time, I hope you check out the other videos and shorts, and I really hope they are helpful to you. Alright, take care. Where's the end button?